SoCal Connected is made possible through the generous support of the Amundsen Foundation, serving the Los Angeles community since 1952. On tonight's SoCal Connected. Do a day's work, get a day's pay. That's how it works, right?
The employer also texted the worker and said, hey, how would you like for ICE to find out that you're here?
So why are more and more workers becoming victims of wage theft?
He threatened to kill me and report me and my family to immigration.
A bill with a funny name.
You know, sequel, but not sequa.
To the color?
I think it has something to do with food.
I think the E is environmental.
But it has a serious impact on your quality of life. A scientist with an Indiana Jones lifestyle.
The science is the easy part.
She'll go wherever it takes to stop a worldwide pandemic.
Infectious disease will likely be the largest threat to humankind.
Hello, I'm Val Zavala. Imagine you didn't get your weekly paycheck and you complained to your boss. Then your boss threatens to deport you. That's the reality for thousands of undocumented workers here in Southern California. No wonder so many of them are afraid to report wage theft. Here's what happens to some of them who do.
I turn junk into pearls. This is what I do. Everything I've done here, I've created by my hands, my creation. What I've done, I've designed it, built it, said it. Let's go this way.
James Balsamo is a contractor and can't wait to show off his latest project, a $1.8 million home in Arcadia.
Took the bottom step and enlarged it, elongated it, made it look better so it looked like Gone with the Wind. The way I paint high gloss to all my moldings. I believe my showers should all be 100% glass, frameless glass. This is what I do. It's beyond beautiful.
But the story behind the home is a bit ugly.
I just got so stressed out over this whole thing.
Balsamo is one of thousands of employers in Southern California who are accused of stealing their workers' paychecks. He hired a worker to tile a bathroom for $900 and then simply didn't pay him.
But why didn't you pay him? That's all he was asking. Why didn't you just pay him the daily rate that you agreed on?
He didn't finish the job.
But the law says you have to pay him. So you didn't like the work.
I gave him the job to do the bathroom. That's what it was set for. $900, you finish the bathroom, you get $900.
The worker said he was taking legal action to get his paycheck. And that's where this story takes another ugly turn. Balsamo claims the worker threatened him, so he sent him a text.
I'm going to call Arcadia PD on you, and because now that I know you're illegal, you don't have a green card, you could get detained by ICE. And if you get detained by ICE, I don't want that to happen. Just finish your work, dude. Just get your stuff done.
What's on record is that you threatened to put him in handcuffs and wait for ICE to arrive.
No.
But that's exactly what court records say Balsamo texted. And those texts may cost him. The California Labor Commissioner, Julie Su, is hitting him with $100,000 in penalties and violations, accusing him of retaliation.
We're seeing just a growing, not just retaliation against immigrant workers, but an emboldening of employers who are making these kinds of threats blatantly.
Balsamo claims the case is bogus and the worker is lying about everything.
He also lied when he said I called him an effing wetback. I didn't do that either.
The worker was unavailable for comment. Balsamo is one of 4 cases Sue's office has filed since August against employers who've allegedly threatened employees with deportation.
Increasingly, employers are so emboldened that we've had employers call my office to say, do you know that this worker who filed a complaint is illegal in the country?
While it is illegal to hire undocumented workers, many still do. They contribute $180 billion annually to the California economy. And under state law, an employer has to pay any laborer for their work regardless of their immigration status. Immigration-related retaliation has grown tenfold in the past 2 years. In 2014 and 15, there were 9 cases. From 2016 through January 2018, there have been 115. Yet advocates and lawyers we spoke to believe the number is much higher.
I think it's an uptick that we're seeing. We've seen retaliation claims based on, just firing workers. But bringing up immigration status is something that was not happening in the recent past.
These threats and the fear they create are silencing abused workers who are terrified to tell their stories to law enforcement and us. Only after assurances we wouldn't reveal their locations, names, or their employers, a few workers agreed to be interviewed.
I know they didn't pay me anything.
This parking attendant told us his paycheck bounced. When he asked for his $800, he claims his boss mentioned immigration. And what did he say about immigration?
He only said he was going to report me, but he said it angrily. And I said, to the contrary, I should be reporting him because he wasn't doing the right thing. I was doing my job and he was taking my money.
We get another tip on a worker, which takes us miles outside of Los Angeles. Hours later, we meet him. He's a ranch hand who says he earned $90 for working 14 hours a day.
When we go there, we would give the animals food like alfalfa. We would grab bales and start distributing them. Then when we were done, we would give all the horses water, and we did all that in the morning.
He worked for 2 months, but didn't get paid for all of it, he says. So he filed a claim for back wages with the state. Then he received this threatening text message.
It said that illegals like me shouldn't be in this country, and that we should go back to where we came from, or immigration would pay me a visit.
Because of the timing, he thinks his boss sent the text, but the number is to an unrelated company in Florida. How did you feel when you received the text?
I was afraid, but not really for me, more for my family since I lived with them. I didn't want them to have any problems because of me, so I left. I moved away from my family.
Across town, another former ranch hand agrees to talk to us. He claims he got the same text message after asking his boss for his paycheck. When you were out of a job, you made a complaint and you told me you received a text message?
Oh, yes. A few days later, I got a message. They were threatening me with immigration.
And what did you think when you got the message?
I was scared, and now I only go as far as the park.
During our conversation, he's clearly nervous to be out during the day. And has something similar ever happened in the past?
No, not until I came here. When I was working in Chicago, nothing ever happened to me.
We reached out to his boss, who in an email strongly denied these claims, but declined to be interviewed. No matter what they think politically, it's clear many employers in California rely on illegal, cheap labor. They're everywhere: janitors, restaurant workers, gardeners, day laborers. Over the years, the undocumented workforce has stepped out of the shadows. Many openly work, spend, buy, and live side by side with everyone else. But now, fear is driving some back into hiding. The workers we spoke to only leave their homes for a job, but only if it's safe and if they can find it. And what job do you have now?
I work 1 or 2 hours as a gardener, making no more than $20 or $30 a day. And that's not enough to pay my rent or eat. That's not enough. I owe about 4 months of rent.
These accounts are not uncommon and appear to be increasing by the week.
I have a restaurant case. The employer also texted the worker and said, hey, how would you like for ICE to find out that you're here? It's very easy for them to do right now. It's almost like the employers know these are the key words to throw out right now.
But sometimes they're throwing more around than just words. They're landing punches.
He mistreated me. He threatened me.
At a truck stop, we arranged to meet this man. For 8 years, he was a maintenance guy, working 6 days a week, but only getting paid for 5. Fed up, he quit. That's when things got ugly with his boss.
He beat me up. He threatened to kill me and report me and my family to immigration.
He's now filed for a restraining order against his former boss and still looking over his shoulder.
I have 2 jobs. When I leave work at night from the restaurant, I ask my coworkers if they can wait for me until I get to the car. I'm suspicious of everyone.
He's still scared, and like a lot of undocumented workers, he's still waiting to get paid. Wage theft costs LA workers $26 million a week. It's a historically underreported crime and may remain that way for now. The current political climate is creating a chilling effect.
We think that it is extremely harmful, not only to the individual who is maybe the target of that enforcement, but also very harmful to other workers who've come to our office seeking our help. It provides a real disincentive to workers to come forward, and we rely on their trust. We rely on workers feeling safe when they come to enforce their labor rights.
Her offices now have signs posted essentially telling ICE it's not welcome. They are in response to agents showing up at hearings looking for undocumented workers. This room is one of the only safe spaces for them. Cross the threshold and the threat is back. Do you know anyone who's been detained by immigration?
No, but I have seen the ICE cars pass by and I recognize them and I hide. If I got my money, I will go back to Mexico because I'm afraid the immigration will find me.
1 in 10 workers in California are undocumented. Will the employers who are helping push them out eventually miss them? If our heavy reliance on low-wage work is an indicator, the answer is probably yes.
You see them outside of supermarkets with clipboards asking you to sign a petition. But do you really know what you're signing? Do you realize that your signature could help approve something that you don't really want? How does that even happen?
You probably don't know it, but a lot of what you love or hate in your community is due to something you've never heard of, CEQA. It's the California Environmental Quality Act, and if that's new to you, you're not alone.
CEQA? Yeah. I know sequel, but not CEQA.
CEQA, the color?
I've seen trucks go by with similar type CEQA. I'm thinking that's something to do with food.
Security, I think the E is environmental. CQ, quality, advisement.
So why should you watch a story about a 40-year-old environmental law you've never heard of? Well, do you want less traffic in your neighborhood? More parks? Do you need more housing? How about a metro stop? Well, CEQA is the public's tool for either fighting for or against those kinds of things, big and small. It's the granddaddy of environmental laws in California. It requires review of any project that could have an impact on the environment. Because of this law, Los Angeles has bike lanes, Vernon doesn't have a trash incinerator, and the Mojave Desert still has more cacti than condos. And this is a park instead of a big box warehouse.
It's a huge CEQA victory.
Robert Garcia was part of a coalition that saved this land near the LA River from being developed. For him, CEQA is about a fundamental principle.
Democracy, letting the people decide what they want in a space like this. Not backroom deals in City Hall and not wealthy developers in Florida telling the people what they'll have here. That's what are the values at stake when you fight for CEQA.
But for all of its good intentions, it's not exactly well written, observers say. They point to exemptions and loopholes that allow developers to do end runs around the lengthy and costly review process. They can also be used to find homes for unpopular or controversial projects, like a warehouse the size of 700 football fields. That's what is planned here in Moreno Valley. When built, the 40 million square foot warehouse will be the largest in America.
You know, look out at that land and figure seeing a sea of big concrete boxes with skylights all over the top, because that's what you're going to see from here.
Resident Kathleen Dale is going to miss her view of the San Jacinto Mountains, and she's not clear everyone knows 14,000 trucks a day will be coming here.
Honestly, I believe that most people in town still don't even know this project was approved or what this land is designated for.
The warehouse's developer escaped a full CEQA review of traffic, pollution, and wildlife impacts by using one of those loopholes. he bankrolled a ballot initiative. That means he paid to get voters to sign a petition to place an initiative on the ballot to approve the warehouse.
The city council can say, great idea, let's just do this. We don't need a ballot, we're just going to do this.
And that's what happened here.
And Mayor Molina.
Yes.
It was approved without residents ever voting on it. The loophole says that's not necessary. Just the collection of signatures is good enough.
I don't understand. All they have to do is comply. CEQA's a very open and fair process if they just follow the rules. I honestly don't understand why they think they need to do an end run around it.
The same thing happened in Inglewood. The Rams Stadium developer used the same ballot initiative loophole. And like Moreno Valley, the city council approved the deal and cut out the voters.
Do you think that the people of Inglewood should have been able to vote?
I think so. We all have a right to cast our vote. I mean, who's making these decisions?
Possibly that maybe should have been a referendum.
Sometimes, the people's word don't matter that much. You know what I mean? They do what they want to do anyway.
When developers sponsor initiatives, they can avoid having the experts decide on these complex environmental issues. Instead, the general public decides. It worked in Inglewood and Moreno Valley, but it failed in Beverly Hills.
I worked personally, along with a lot of other people, very hard to inform our residents that this wasn't about a garden, it was about a skyscraper.
Our voters are the only ones who decide on that.
Back in 2016, Mirish was the mayor. He was facing off with a developer who wanted to build a 26-story condo development here, a record-breaking height for the town. So the developer went straight to the voters and pitched it more like a park than a high-rise.
Yes on HH means a beautiful new park protected by a covenant, open to the public.
So you can imagine people at supermarkets approaching residents, don't you want to have a garden? Sign here. And that's how it worked. It's a process which in and itself is flawed because it doesn't require people to give full or accurate information.
This time, the issue made it onto the ballot. The voters said, no thanks.
Yes, once in a while David will beat Goliath, but maybe 9 times out of 10 Goliath wins, and that's the problem.
All of this raises the question, is this the way planning should work? Governor Jerry Brown says, maybe. Last year, he vetoed a bill that would have closed the CEQA loopholes. That bill was inspired by the Moreno Valley warehouse. Brown has often said that CEQA is a barrier to housing and transportation in California, but that doesn't really seem to be the case. A recent state study found CEQA had no effect on home building in California. So, for as much talk as there is about reforming this law, there's just as much saying leave it alone. Loved by environmentalists, hated by developers, some things may never change. But Kathleen Dale says the public can't sit on the sidelines when so much is at stake.
I mean, really, you have to be engaged. That's the main thing, and you've got to hold your elected officials and your city hall accountable.
Her life is the stuff of action thrillers. She heads to the Congo to chase down deadly diseases and stop them in their tracks. They call her the Unstoppable Woman, and when you hear her story, you'll know why. She flies into dense African forests, hikes through 10-foot-tall grass, crosses rickety bridges, trudges through swamps, and dodges thunderstorms, all in search of something most of us would avoid, like the plague. She's in search of deadly diseases.
Infectious disease will likely be the largest threat to humankind.
Annie Ramoyne has been dubbed a virus hunter.
The Hollywoodized version would be a virus hunter, but I would prefer to say infectious disease epidemiologist. This was our most recent lab that we pulled together.
She's based at UCLA's School of Public Health, and she's seen how nearly 300 new diseases have appeared over the past 80 years. Why? 2 key reasons. First, we're in the age of air travel.
As people are able to pick up from very small villages anywhere in the world and make it to big urban centers and then jump off to other continents, diseases are much more easily spread.
The second reason? Climate change.
We see changes in climate. We're also going to be seeing changes in insects that may be able to transmit disease. For example, mosquitoes, which harbor many, many different diseases, malaria, dengue, chikungunya, just to name a few.
This is a map that's been worked on.
When it comes to spotting outbreaks, Annie has a favorite spot on the globe.
If you're interested in emerging infectious diseases, the Democratic Republic of the Congo is a great place to be.
Much of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, or DRC, is dense forest. This is where humans and animals are most likely to interact and where diseases get transmitted.
The buffer between animals and humans is becoming thinner and thinner with deforestation, with population explosion.
These trends, along with overhunting, has reduced the number of large animals that villagers traditionally hunt. Now they're forced to eat smaller animals, and that's a riskier diet.
Over time, what we've seen is a shift from eating the larger mammals to some of the smaller mammals, like from antelope to rodents, squirrels, bats, that we know harbor many diseases. The interface between animals and humans is really where we see disease emerging.
So how did this cheerleader from Palos Verdes become a virus hunter? Well, she got her love of science from her father, a renowned geneticist. She got her sense of adventure in the Peace Corps, and she got a PhD in international health. In 2004, she started a public health research and training collaboration between UCLA and the DRC. Over the past decade, she's made more than 50 trips to the DRC. She works with officials there to detect, diagnose, and hopefully contain an outbreak before it becomes an epidemic.
Science is the easy part. It's the getting to the point of being able to do the science is the difficult part.
Hunting for viruses is daunting. The size of the rainforest here is second only to the Amazon. Example, this is a typical bridge. This is a runway. This is or was a road. And trails can easily become swamps.
You have to charter planes, you have to use dugout canoes, you have to walk, you have to use motorcycles.
They were making good time on motorcycles until they came across a fast-running river with no bridge.
We're trying to get this motorcycle across this very small river.
So what did they do? Turn dugout canoes into a barge. One motorcycle across, 6 more to go.
Number 1 of 7 motorcycles that need to go across.
Setting up a good lab in the field is vital to their work, but vaccines and specimens have to be kept at sub-zero temperatures in a hot climate with no electricity.
We bring generators, and that means you also have to bring fuel, and then you also have to bring deep cell batteries, and you have to have backups for them because the generators probably are going to break at some point.
Then there are the friendly but unwanted visitors.
For example, a goat being in the,
it's a little goat.
But you don't want to have a goat
in your lab. Or termites.
We got a whole lab put together, and everything's ready, and then you realize that the first rain happens, and you end up with termites that are now swarming all over the ceiling.
Annie and her team know their program is working. Look at the dramatic difference between 2 outbreaks. In 2014, the largest outbreak of Ebola started in West African countries. Response was delayed for months. The virus spread to 6 countries, including the U.S. It took 2 years to contain it. 11,310 people died. 3 years later, an Ebola case was detected in the DRC. Annie was on a plane in 8 days. Local officials knew what to do. Luckily, it had started in a remote village and not a big city. The outbreak was contained in 6 weeks. And how many people died? Only 4, compared to more than 11,000. Over the many years working with deadly viruses, not one of Annie's team has gotten seriously ill.
My team is very, very careful. We make sure that we filter our water, we make sure that we wash our hands, we make sure that we wear personal protective equipment. So by following the rules of public health, you can avoid getting a lot of the diseases that that you're trying to study or to help the population avoid.
Her Congolese colleagues have dubbed Annie the unstoppable woman.
I think that that is because in order to be able to work in a place like the DRC, you can't give up. And you have to be able to think strategically and have a plan A and a plan B and a plan C and a plan D, and not be daunted when there are no roads or the electricity goes out or you need to figure out how to be able to keep your vaccines cold.
Why on earth would you want to go chasing down lethal viruses that could kill you? Why would you want to do that?
Because somebody has to do that. And I think it's a very important public health problem that needs to be studied. One of the things that we know is that infectious diseases are not going away. And in fact, we will be seeing more and more outbreaks over time. And so I think that this is a public health imperative, being able to understand viruses that are emerging, understanding where they're coming from, how people are getting them, and being able to stop them before they become a pandemic is a public health imperative. And so that's why we do this.
And that's our program for this evening. I'm Val Zavala. Thanks for watching.